Welcome everybody back to Boost Emotion, guys. And today we're gonna talk about it. How are Americans affording $1,000 car note? And it doesn't make any sense. So, guys, let's jump right into it. First thing, I am Boost Emotion. I'm a Nissan Infiniti enthusiast, car enthusiast, but also I report the news and I talk about articles that I deem relevant. And then to my Boost Emotion family, I know you guys have already hit the like button. Thank you guys for your support. So, this article comes from Car and Driver, right? And $1,000 a month or higher car payments are distressingly common right now. Now, this doesn't make any sense. The reason being is if the average American only had, I think it's 60 to 70% average American doesn't have $1,000 or $500 or more in emergency money in their bank accounts. That means a subset of 30 to 40% of Americans that are working and able can afford these car payments. And if the average price or prices of $1,000 car payments are this high in percentage, what are you guys doing? How can you guys really afford it? Maybe America's got a lot more money than we really think. So let's go into the article. Let's talk about it. New data from Emin shows that more than 15% of new car vehicles are signing on for four-figure payments. So 15% of new vehicles. So that's the actual context here. A new set of data shows that we've been seeing over several months, monthly payments on new cars are hitting and exceeding four figures at distressingly high rates. One reason is rising interest rates, which turn or affect the supply chain supply chain issues and inflation. Another reason is a growing number of customers tend to owe more on their vehicle they're trading in than it's worth, tempting them to roll negative equity into the next purchase. Now, quickly, guys, remember we are now in January. Interest rates are still high in 2023. Remember, they're combating inflation. The supply chain stuff is BS because majority of new car dealerships have the car there. Majority of them. Maybe shout out to different salesmen that did hit me up. I understand that maybe within your area or your zone or wherever you're working, that you may still have a shortage for your specific cars and your demographic. But majority of America, you can get a new car depending on what model of car you're going to go get, and majority of them will have everything working inside of the car when it comes to tech because the supply chain chip shortage really doesn't exist anymore, right? So moving forward, um, so the second thing they spoke about is negative equity. For anyone who wants to know quickly about negative equity, let's just say your car, you went and got a Honda Civic and you got it for $20,000, right? Or $25,000, right? But the car is only really worth $20,000 on a trade-in. If you want to trade the car in, or if you want to sell it, but let's say you owe $25,000, so that's $5,000 of negative equity. Now let's say you go trade that car in for, let's say, a Honda Accord, which is like $30,000, right? That $5,000 doesn't go anywhere. They give you $20,000. Well, they'll pay the car loan off because they need to get the title, but that $5,000 of negative equity goes into the new car payment. So now your Honda Accord that you're paying $30,000 for is now 35. And a lot of people are doing that for their newer cars because for whatever reason they may want to really get a newer car. And the way that infrastructure of car buying is set up, you're always buying a car at negative equity. Period. Majority, unless it's like a luxury, I would say a specialized exotic car or cars who already hit their depreciation stride. Majority of the market of cars always will be depreciating, and you even when you buy the car, you're still always going to be negative. Period. That's just how it always is. So the share of the new car loans with monthly payments over $1,000 hit a record high last year. The company says 15.7% of buyers who financed a new car in fourth quarter signed on for four-figure monthly. Okay, we already heard that. That's up from 10.5% in 2021 and nearly 50% increase in overall share. Supply constraints, inflation put upwards pressure on prices, while the same inflationary crisis lead to much higher interest rates. Remember, guys, the interest rates is also what really affects it. Remember, guys, I recently got a 2019 E63S. I have good credit. I have good financial background, and honestly, I got a 7.4% interest rate. I already know you guys want to punch Boost right in the face. Like, why am I paying that? Well, that's totally separate type of situation, but it's really hard to get interest rates that low unless you go through a union bank, which I talked about union banks in a recent video. Hopefully I put a link above, or you can check on my channel where I talk about going with the union banks because their percentages is on average between 1.5 to 2% cheaper. Yep. So Consumers attempted to account for the rising prices by spending more upfront, bringing an average down payment of about $6,700 or $6,800. And markups, which usually cannot be financed as easily as money towards the vehicle's MSRP, likely contribute to the rise in average down payment. This is the crazy part. So they're saying 15% of people who went and got new cars, right, are paying over $1,000. I'm gonna be fair with you. I'm gonna be honest on video. I'm not gonna waste your guys' time. The people who spend more than $1,000 on a car note can't afford it. I'm sorry. Like, there's people who may live above their means, but we're talking about 15%. We're talking about our minority group of people. I already talked about it before. The people who are getting Mercedes Benz, Audis, and these high end luxury cars, they can afford it. Inflation doesn't really exist in them. There are people who live in the middle class who do live above their means and follow the Joneses, whatever. But this doesn't stop people who actually got it. If you're making 150, 200, $300,000 a year, this stuff doesn't stop you. You still want the car. What is a negative equity to you? You're like 5K negative equity. It's okay, cool. I just got a whole 911 Turbo S. Do I really care? You see what I'm saying? But it affects the more average people that's making between $30,000 to $50,000. This is what it's hard. And if you're making that much amount of money, your car note shouldn't be $1,000. So this is not really necessarily something for us. This is why people can pay for markups. Prime example, this is a Nissan Infiniti Channel 2. Nissan Z. People went and bought the Proto Z, right? And they paid a markup of $10,000 to $15,000 to $20,000 because they really want the car. Well, here's what happened with the market on that. 6 months later, there's still Proto Z sitting on a lot. And people are just, no one's rushing in to go get a Nissan Z. They're just like, And now that they're finally coming out with the regular performance and sport Zs, guess what's happening now? That's going to have its own little bit of hyped up or markup market, but then some people may not consider it either. To go get a brand new car and then spend another 5K on top and then a higher interest rate, what's the point? So being upside down makes it even worse. Edmonds also see a rise in car payments and inflated market as potential dangerous combination. In the fourth quarter, 17.4% of new car purchases with trade-in had a negative equity rolled into the loan. So under 20% of those people who traded their car in were also upside down on their loan already, on their old loan. So they're literally pushing themselves into a higher bracket. Like I'm going to keep saying, though. This is people who can probably afford it. I'm not saying that there's not a subset of people who necessarily are forced into it, but these are people who are rolling their old car payment into their new car payment, and it's already over $1,000. Think about the cars that are $1,000 a month per month. You have high-end luxury vehicles, or I would say a $60,000 to $70,000 car, a $60,000 car and up. They're purchasing. The average person can't afford that. The average person can't afford a $60,000 to $70,000 car. Unless maybe it's a family or something like that, and it's the family hauler. And it's like two income household. Maybe I could see that happening there, but nonetheless, it's not so much of a big deal. Vehicle equity is really tale of two gears for consumers over the past few years, and at the onset of pandemic, consumers benefited from low interest rates and elevated trade-in values, helping shield even more questionable financing decisions from resulting of negative equity. So what I quickly want to sit there and say is this, guys. Remember, I talked about it on my channel extensively. I've already sat there and said it just like this. I said that, remember, we have dealt with a time in the U.S., right, where we had average cars or more common cars that necessarily didn't lose any value or went up in value. Your used car held value. Here's a prime example. I purchased a 2017 Infiniti Q60 in the end of 2020. I remember, the end of 2020. I kept the car for about a year and a half, and I sold it for $1,000 more than it was worth last year. I mean, $1,000 more than what I paid for it. So I necessarily got to drive the car for free. And I made content on the channel. Isn't that crazy? And also, I would even include my Mercedes 2015 W205 C63 AMG. I purchased that car in early 2021, and I sold it late 2022, almost 2 years later. And I paid $39 for it, and I resold for $35. So it lets you know that we're kind of in a market where some cars may have hold value, depending on the type of car, and also because used car values also went up too. But now, because the last 6 months, with the interest rate going up, cars coming back in stock, new people go get new cars, it's now affecting the market, and there's a major market correction. So I do understand what this article is saying, that $1,000 month or higher car payments, distressing, common, or just distressingly common right now. But I think they're being disingenuous by sitting and saying this because 60 to 7% of Americans don't have a certain amount of money in their bank account, right? And then the people who are purchasing cars, let's say out of that 40%, right? I'm assuming 15% of those people out of the 40% of those Americans, right, are the ones who's possibly paying $15,000 or more on car payment. If that's even a really case based on percentage, that is not a common thing to me. That's just not a common. Just by dropping numbers from 15 to even close to 20%, that is a minority of people, and these people who are usually doing it, they are the ones who spending the money, especially if they trade it on negative equity. So no one's putting a gun to their head saying, get this car for $1,000 car payment. My car is a pre-owned E63, and my car payment is in the mid thousands territory. No one's putting a gun to my head. I wanted this car, and I can be able to afford it, so I can do so. That's just what the case is. So, yes, I think this article is being disingenuous, and I think they're just making a title just so they can grab people's attention. And necessarily, I just don't think that really works. But outside of that, guys, if you consider this video to be very informative, hopefully, guys, you hit that like button. I really appreciate you guys showing your support for the channel. Thank you, Boost in Motion family. Thank you guys so much. And if you're new to the Boost in Motion channel, remember, I am a car enthusiast. I do report the news, so my channel will have different type of topics on it. And you may see me in a car driving occasionally. You may see me do some really bad stuff behind the wheel too. But nonetheless, I really appreciate you guys tapping in with me. Much love. You can add me at boostinmotion.g. Facebook. Also, send me an email at boostinmotion@gmail.com. Otherwise than that, guys, I appreciate it. You guys have a good day. Thank you.